Well, the Nigerian Air Force has finally taken responsibility for the deadly airstrike on Kwatiri, a rural community in Nasarawa State, north central Nigeria, after months of uncertainties about the identities of the attackers. Now, a new report by Human Rights Watch, an organization which investigates and reports on human rights abuses worldwide, said its investigations confirmed 39 persons were killed and 6 others injured in the airstrike that occurred on the 24th of January. Now, latest media reports have indicated higher tolls resulting from the incident. The group also said during the release of its new report on Tuesday that Nigerian authorities provided little information and no justice regarding the airstrike. Although the authorities admitted carrying out the raid, the organization said they evaded key questions concerning the circumstances surrounding the attack. Well, we're going to stay with Charles Ideho on this one. Charles, thank you very much for staying on with us. And we'll also be joined by Victor Atewe, who is also joining us virtually. Good morning to you, Victor, if you're in already. Now, well, I think he's still trying to find his way in. Staying with you, Charles. Are you still with us? Oh, great.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Now, what do you make of the fact that the military carried out an operation and lives were lost, albeit innocent lives, and nothing was said? I mean, we know that activities of the military most times are, kept secrets. It's, they say it's you're not privy to this information.
Good morning.
High profile. You're not supposed to ask this. But where it concerns human lives, where it concerns the lives of Nigerians, errors, I would want to be fair to say, yes, mistakes happen, even though those mistakes are not, should not happen. When they do, shouldn't people be held responsible?
Yes, why not? Of course. But again, let's look at the way the military operates. Sometimes they are not above board when it has to, or they're not above mistakes or above errors. Particularly when you have area bombardment and the areas are not properly mapped. So usually you have such error. If you recall the war between Ukraine and Russia by error, in error, mistakenly bombed its own city. I'm sure you recall that in the news.
Yes.
So Russia that was supposed to be targeting a Ukrainian city mistakenly targeted its own city, and before you know it, you have everything turned into rubble. So such mistakes are not unexpected, which is why it's always insisted upon in military circles that before you carry out area bombardment, make sure you have done proper mapping of those areas. Make sure you don't rush into any reprisal attack or you wanted to do or carry out all this bombardment, which of course happened. It's not the first time. In 2017, it happened in Borno. I can't recall the place now in Borno. When I say it's an IDP camp, when about 11 of us, IDP people were killed by mistake. Erroneously also did that. Then there was also somewhere in Yobe State that a 11-year-old girl was also killed in 2019. Even in 2021, there has also been things like so. What they need to do, the military, in order to ensure that you minimize, if you cannot totally eradicate this, because as I said, it happens all over the world. Even in America, sometimes they mistakenly bomb where they're not supposed to bomb. So what they need to do is to ensure that they do not rush into some of these things. For instance, the one that happened in the case in point, Nasarawa and the Benue border, which of course found its way into this report, happened because they got a report that bandits were grouping up, were just grouping to cause mayhem somewhere, not knowing that they were members of they were cattle herders whose cows were seized by the Benue State Livestock Guards. All right. So the Benue Livestock Guard, and because you don't have in Benue State, you have this anti-open grazing laws over there that when you when they find even these people contravening the law, they seize their cattle, and then you have to go over there to pay ransom for your cattle to be released. So it now turned out to be that those who they said were members of a bandit were actually pastoralists that were going to meet with the members of the officials of the Benue State Livestock Guard in order for them to have their cattle that were seized, after the payment of ransom to be released. So they went over there, and then you started bombarding the place because they said they got information. So, but the question is, when they got that information, did they cross-check and recheck and check one more time to ensure that the information they got is actually what it was meant? It was what it was, not this one that now mistakenly bombed defenseless pastoralists that were going about their normal business, even though they also have caused infraction in the laws of Benue State. They were going there to pay ransom. So we are told by report, and then they got hewn down by the bullets of the Air Force. But again, in most cases, military, as you said, their own operations are not meant for the public. So it was, thank God for Huriwa, that came up with that report. They now did investigation, and then they found out that they were actually not bandits that were killed, but pastoralists.
All right,
hope,
Mr. Charles, the governor,
yes.
that at the time, Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State, had exonerated the Nigerian Air Force from the attack. He literally said that that no Air Force plane flew through the area. So imagine having to make a comparison of what he made, that statement he made, and then the Nigerian Air Force eventually admitting that it was a mistake, that they actually were responsible for killing those pastoralists. What do we make of state governors? Most times when they're supposed to protect their own people, protect the other, or possibly protect the federal government or an arm of the federal government, what did they stand to gain?
I think it's official irresponsibility on the part of some governors who usually rush to the media to tell you that no, it didn't happen. Because look at how it has turned out now. There was such infraction, there was such misdeed, but the governor did not even wait for the first line of report to be written, and then he went straight to the public and was saying, no, it was in defense of the Air Force. But Air Force has come now, and they have told you that it is not what the governor said, but the governor was wrong. The governor erred. That actually happened. But I think we are waiting. I think it's on the 19th. They said, I can't recall what date, next week or so, that the Air Force is going to look at whether there will be compensation to be paid to the families of those who...
Look at, they actually have to give, they have to compensate them. They don't even have to look at it. They need to be compensated. The families of those members who died in that air bombardment need to be compensated.
Yes.
So, but yes. Again, let me take you to a situation where this is not the first time we've actually had this kind of situation occur, whereby the Nigerian Air Force, mistakenly bombard an area which they thought was occupied by bandits or terrorists. The other time too, we had a situation like that where they bombed a village and a couple of members within that area died, where they thought it was a terrorist. And sometimes after that, we don't hear any report anymore. If Human Rights had not written whereby they needed to investigate it, we may not even have heard the Nigerian Air Force admit that they actually, did that it was from them, it was a fault from them. So the question now is, what about others that has happened? Who has done a follow-up to tell us if the families of these individuals, though the government is fighting insecurity, were compensated?
Well, I want to praise the effort of the human rights that actually waded into this, and of course they did all the report, carried out researches, and carried out all the investigation that they did, and then they now brought their report that is now making us to discuss this issue today on TV. All right, but again, certain things like that have continued to happen, except it is investigated. Nobody ever gets to know how they happen or where they are carried out. It's only when the media or bodies such as Human Rights Watch will come out and then say this is what happened, because we cannot get to know. So over and over again, this thing continues to happen. This thing continues to happen every time, unless it is brought to the public. It never gets to be discussed. But I do hope that first, this one that we're discussing now will be carried out totally. Will be carried out thoroughly. We also get to his conclusion to ensure that it serves as a deterrent that such things are never allowed to happen again. And even if they do happen, anybody who is found culpable should be punished and to serve as a deterrent.
All right. Now, I'm going to ask this. I want us to, rub our minds over this issue. What is the place? Well, before I do so, let's welcome Victor Atewe, because we hear that Victor has joined us. Good morning to you, Victor.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. So sorry about the other time.
Good to have you, Victor. So let me come straight to you now. Now, what is the place of ground forces in this? When you talk of airstrikes, usually there would be ground forces. There will be other people on ground to report. I mean, it's good that you have an aerial view of a place, but it's better when you have people reporting. I mean, 39 persons, that's a lot. That's a lot of persons. Yeah, maybe they were there, to talk about their cows and sheep. Maybe they were there for another thing. But the issue now is they have not been pegged as terrorists and they have been killed. 39 persons. What is the place of ground forces in such operations?
Yeah, you will recall. Good morning, and thanks for that question. Now, you see, if you read the report, you would see that at a point the Nigerian Air Force said that it was a suspected terrorist. They tagged them as suspected terrorists. It was up until the Human Rights Watch waded into it, investigated and found out that these people are not terrorists, as they say. Now, this goes to tell you that how do our Nigerian Air Force or the military really go into combating terrorists? They should be tactical investigation carried out. How did they assess these people? You don't launch attack on innocent people. Like the words say, until you find them guilty, they are innocent. So you now saying just go and you go and throw a bomb and try to and kill over 39 people, and at the tail end, after being, with all the investigation proving that you're guilty, you're coming on to own up that yes, indeed it happened. But of course, you own up to the mistake and ready to compensate people. Nothing is worth any life of any Nigerian. Yes, the position for ground forces in this case, I don't think there is at the moment, because as it's been reported that it was a drone that was flown over the area, and of course, detonated the bomb and of course attacked those people. So in this case, I don't think there is any arrangement for that. But of course, if indeed, as they stated, as they pegged them to be terrorists, there are supposed to be ground forces on the ground, of course, to combat these people. But in this case, that's not been reported, and that wasn't captured.
Charles, do you want to respond to that as well?
Yes, exactly. But again, we are not. But first of all, I thank Victor for that submission. Was spot on. But what I just want to add to it is that it's not every time that the military makes use of both ground forces and the air forces at all. There are some occasions where they do not even have need for area bombardment. There are also other occasions where they need the complementary effort of both area and then the ground. Okay. Now, what in this case they were just terrorists, maybe a handful of them, as the report they got. Maybe they just they had this a truckload of human beings. With of course that truckload is not enough for you to start deploying large military operations over there. But in most cases where you have a combination of the area and ground forces is when you have suspected things like that is of maybe medium scale operation of the enemies of what I call the criminals. area can come in as we bombard them. The fleeing ones will be taken over, will be taken up taken care of by the ground forces. Or sometimes the ground forces could also unleash maybe attack on those criminals. Then the area, as they are fleeing, the area forces will take over, take them up. So, but in this case, it was just a minute. Please forgive, pardon the use of that word minute. It was just not enough for you to bring both area and ground forces. But right, again, as I said, I'm also going to insist in that before any of these military operations should be carried out, they should ensure that information at their disposal should be checked and rechecked to ensure that what happened in the case of this Benue and Nasarawa, this issue does not repeat itself again.
I was just going to go there. I was
Yes.
just going to go to, having proper information. I mean, we've seen cases where there is a robbery somewhere, and then the police will just go and pack people and display them. And then if a parent or a guardian now comes to say, oh no, this person is not a criminal, and then it's okay, you go. It's like our military forces are really quick to score points and make it seem like they are working. So they just, carry out actions without proper investigation. Now, quickly, how should they do things differently?
Oh, is that me or Victor?
Okay, I'd like to get both your views, but let's start with Charles first.
Okay, well, the thing is that you see, this thing, what I'm going to say may sound pedestrian to your ears, but I'm not saying that's the case. In most cases, when I was growing up in those days, there were some boys who would go to some villages. They said they want to do juju for them. That when they slap somebody, the person will, just faint or something like that. And then when they are given this ring, it always moves them to go try it on someone to see whether the juju will work. So it's the same thing with some of these military people. Some of them have never seen war before and never even shot a gun apart from when they are having their practice. So when you ask them to go over there, they want to test their might. Somebody's wearing uniform, he knows the power behind that. Somebody's wearing the gun, maybe AK-47 or maybe assault rifle. The person want to do that so that he will be called a gallant soldier. Gallantry of the military is usually earned by when you go to war or go to peace and you're able to take down some enemies. Then you are rewarded gallantly. So in this case, that may not be different because when you have such things, they will always rush into it. But don't forget, even you yourself, I'm sure you may have complained that police is not working well. So when police gets information that there are criminals somewhere, they just rush in. The thing will find its way into the media. Oh, everybody will applaud the police that they're working. So, but that's not how it is done in some areas, like in some countries. What happens is that even it can take the police authorities even 1 year for them to unravel even just a single criminal act. But here in Nigeria, because they want to be applauded, they rush in order to test out their juju in a manner of speaking to know whether the thing is working.
All right, then. Let's have your view.
Victor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Victor.
Okay. Yeah. You see, what the child said is not really far-fetched from what I had in mind.
Okay.
What the military just did in this case is just, swinging into action before taking the proper, trying to weigh to investigate the information. And this goes to show how well the information dissemination is being carried out, in our in our military force. So this because this will find its way to the media, there are a lot of massacre that the military have perpetrated that today nobody knows about it, and these people are all buried and gone. So and in this case, it's not just enough to them swinging into action and just assuming and carry out the action and say, oh no, we didn't know that these people were not what we projected, but the information we got was that these are suspected terrorists. This calls to accountability. This calls to how do you carry out when information is being sent to you? What are the methods? What are the methodology you put in place to make sure that the information are authentic? This goes to that we need to hold them accountable. And of course, I think a lot of the training needs to be done because this is like a normal routine. It happens in even not just the military or the Air Force.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Victor. We have to wrap it up now. And also a very big thank you to Victor Atewe and Charles Ideho for joining us on the show. We'll be going into entertainment now. Kayla Abraham will be joining us for entertainment.
Yes, that's true.
All right. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll
short
dive into entertainment.